From the studios of TLC Talk Radio, it's TashaTalkz. I'm your girl, Tasha. Don't forget to follow us on all of our social media pages, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and of course, YouTube. And catch our podcast lineup on TLCTalkRadio.com, 24/7 edutainment. We have an incredible show lined up for you today. As always, as TashaTalkz is about relationships, we're going to talk about something really, really important, right? And that's boundaries. And I know a lot of people are probably triggered just hearing the word, but our expert guest today is wrapping up her master's degree in social work from Simmons University, Boston School of Social Work. Welcome to TashaTalkz, Miss Dorian Linnear. Hey, Dorian.
Hi, Miss Clopton. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Indeed. I'm so excited to talk to you generally and then to talk to you specifically about this. So for the listening and viewing audience, Dorian and I go way back, even though we're only 22. Not sure
Right.
what that math figures. I keep lying to the audience every week. They know.
Well, let's be honest. 22 for you, 25 for me.
Okay. Yeah.
There you go.
Let's go with that.
Yeah, that's about right.
I don't think they believe us. But we go back and we had a conversation recently about boundaries. And so it's an important topic. It's popular, right? In my circle, particularly as it related to the pandemic, making people sit down and spend time with self. Spend time with maybe the immediate family in the house, right? Because sometimes you get an opportunity to escape people when they're on your nerves. But now if it's a stay-at-home order, not so much. So I thought this was a perfect opportunity as we are prayerfully on the end of the pandemic, right? To talk about boundaries. So for the purpose of just educating the audience, what are boundaries?
Well, boundaries is, I guess you can think of it as a line that you draw between, your personal life and what you're willing to share with others, or what you're willing others to allow in your personal life or your personal space.
Yeah. And so why is that important? Like some people are private by nature. Some people like me are very open, but there are still boundaries. Why are boundaries important?
Well, boundaries are important for self-care. You have to have a piece of you that you're not sharing with the world, so that you'll be able to reflect on yourself and be able to navigate things in the world, specifically that you may not be able to navigate if everyone's pressure, or what they do, or how they live their life, if it's coming at you. So you have to have that positive self-talk, and the only way you can do that sometimes is to have that boundary, those boundaries that you set up in that space just for you to be able to connect with yourself or your higher power, so that you can be able to go back out into the world, go back out with your family and friends, and be your whole self.
That makes sense. I always phrase it as you can't pour from an empty cup. So if you don't refill, do what it is you need to do, for me it's Tasha time. For me it's if you dial me 29 times in a row, that's the quickest way to get me to block you. Like I don't respond to your urgent needs that are not really urgent. Don't do that. So you set those boundaries in place, or sometimes you just don't feel like talking, right?
Absolutely.
You just don't want to deal with that. What then is the adverse effect of allowing people to cross whatever line you've drawn around yourself?
Well, yeah, the adverse effect could be many different things, and it can be based on many different things, depending on your own, mental health going into, the situation. If you don't have good boundaries and you're not, stable mentally, it can have adverse effects there, or just in general, our mental health period, emotional dysregulation. We become anxious, worried, stress, and just a general feeling of tiredness,
Mm,
and that can affect our bodies in many different ways.
yeah.
We have some of the somatic symptoms that come out as a result, and no one is really aware of what why I may have a headache, why am I feeling so fatigued, why am I feeling so drained, why am I so depressed lately. And that could definitely be a reason of you not filling up your cup, not taking that time to meditate on you and self reflect and just have that me time.
Yeah. And that's important. I think particularly in the African American community, we've been taught to you support, you do what you have to do. And that's wonderful. Of course, we should function as a community, but if we take on the problems of others, and sometimes I think that's where a lot of enabling comes in. You're so worried about what somebody else is doing, they can then turn off their self-regulation and just give it to you because mama's gonna fix it, grandma's gonna bail me out, uncle's
Hmm.
gonna pay my rent, uncle's gonna keep my kid. Yeah,
Yeah,
that kind of thing.
absolutely. And we have so much on our shoulders as Black people, as African American people in general. We come from resilience. Our ancestors were resilient. That's how we're here today.
Sure.
So, and especially African American women, we take on everything just about from you know the whole family, and we place things on our shoulders that we appear to be able to handle all the time, and for the most part we do, but it's not necessarily healthy for us. And that again, that's where some of the somatic things start happening, diabetes, and that's diet related as well, but it can definitely be affected by all the stress and pressure that we put on ourselves. We do take on so much, we become the enabler sometimes, because we want our families to work, we want I guess the American dream, or to just to have the ideal kind of life, but no one's life is perfect. There is nothing that's ideal, so we definitely have to start living our lives to take care of ourselves more, instead of placing so much pressure on us. We're definitely gonna still do the things that we do as wives, mothers, or single women, in general. Um, to be able to to be able to keep our lives afloat and keep our families going, but we have to have that time to care for ourselves.
Yeah. I My dad fusses a lot and he says, "Baby, you got a lot of irons in the fire because I do 29 million things, but I promise you at the top of the list is Tasha. Second and third are those two, my 2 10-year-olds, but really they're my parents, but my 2 10-year-olds." And so I get it because we want to, like you said, ensure that what we are working toward is not lost. It is, we're juggling so many things. And sometimes if we want to drop something, if we're painting a visual picture, we end up dropping ourselves. That ain't me. So bless the Lord for that. What are some
Yeah.
examples of setting a healthy boundary? What might that look like in any setting?
Well, that could be a lot of different things. For some of us who are okay with saying, hey, look, I need my space. Can you please respect that? Because some of us are okay with being that upfront and open and truthful about that. But some of us who are not, we may need to, figure out some other kind of ways to do that. And I know we engaged in a letter writing exercise when you did the assignment with me for class.
Sure.
And yeah, that's a perfect example of, how to, externalize your thoughts and your feelings and get it out of you
Tell the audience a
onto.
little bit about that exercise.
Well, yeah, the letter exercise is a part of narrative therapy, and narrative therapy loves letter writing because the point of narrative therapy is to help a person to actualize or realize that they are not the problems that may be happening in their lives. Because a lot of times we internalize a lot of things, we start telling ourselves a lot of things, and we start believing those things. And often that comes from other people's perspective of us, not necessarily our own. It comes from worldview, um, social constructionism, so, we internalize all of that and we keep it and we hold it in, and, that comes out negatively for us. So in letter writing and narrative therapy, um, what we do is we write a letter. It does not necessarily have to be to a specific person. It can actually be to your therapist. It can be, to yourself. It can be to the person who you want to, tell something to, as far as, other people's problem or other people's vision of, my problem. But it just helps externalize it, and just pushes it out of you onto a piece of paper, to be able to start healing. It starts the healing process. And for those of us who aren't as vocal, or who have who has a problem telling people, you know, what you are doing, it's not benefiting me, it's not serving me well, maybe we need a break from each other,
Sure.
what you said about me, as far as if I'm going to have a baby, or, if I'm going to be in a relationship, or, am I getting married? Those things affect me, they hurt me, you know, can you either change the way you speak to me, or, maybe we should take a break from each other. Some people can't do that. So it's helpful to be able to put those things in writing.
Yeah. And so how then, because I imagine it's a process, right? Some people, not only will they not say it, they may not write it. Sometimes we've been conditioned in our
Mhm.
circles, in our families, to just deal with whatever, particularly if it comes from an older person. It's that whole, you need to respect Auntie
Mhm.
Susie. But Auntie Susie is meddling. And I see it. So I see it combated in a comical way when you watch videos. Somebody at Thanksgiving, it'll be the young man who's sitting, and somebody will ask him something inappropriate. Where's your girlfriend, or why do you like men, or something that's just none of their darn business. And then
Mhm.
they'll spin it and begin to call out all of their issues, around the table. It's funny to look at, but that's his way in the skit of setting his boundaries. Like,
Mhm.
if you don't start none, it won't be none. What are some other ways? Because that's how I combat it. I hit it with comedy. Someone said to me,
Mhm.
if those of you who've known me for a long time, I used to be a twig. My cousin said I could hide behind an umbrella pole, right? He's fun. That's what we did, right? And so one of my aunts at the family reunion at my house, what you're not gonna do is insult me in my house. And, and she said, I never thought you would gain any weight. And before I knew it, because I'm quick, I said, and I never thought you would lose any. Oh God, why did I say that? Now, it got across. That wasn't my intended, but I'm quick. So
Mhm.
it didn't matter who she was in that moment. You crossed the line. And so let
Mhm.
me escort you back, you over the line. We've got
Mhm.
comedy, we've got writing, we've
Mhm.
got, I'm gonna cut you deeper. What are some
Mhm.
other ways to establish that line?
And I'm glad you said that too, because even though some of us who are okay with verbalizing how we feel, we might not always want to do that, because we do, want to keep our relationships. We want to nurture our relationships.
Sure.
We don't want to rupture family relationships. So the letter writing exercise can actually help with that as well.
Mhm.
You don't necessarily have to, react right away, when someone's saying something to you. And then that's like some other psychotherapies that we use also in social work, that can actually help you with emotion regulation, so that you won't be so quick to, you know as soon as someone says something to you, well, wait a minute,
Right.
so then we can go into some like mindfulness activities,
Okay.
deep breathing exercises, meditation. There's even like some exercises where you do some tapping. You can tap on things, um, to help you calm, and that's the purpose of like cognitive behavior therapy, and
Sure.
some other therapies, just to kind of get you to calm, because when that uh, fight, flight, freeze response gets activated, and that's out of fear most of the time, because you're going into this environment, People have stressed you out because,
Sure.
for whatever reason, maybe, someone can have a child. Maybe someone, you know, has dated and just not been successful. Or maybe you just don't even want any of that. Maybe it's just your preference. It's none of their business, but because they love us, they make it their business.
Mhm.
So, that's when we come in with, some other treatment modalities or psychotherapies, that can help us in a place to be in a place of calm where we can, think rationally, and maybe think, okay, well, she doesn't understand. Let me just let this go. Or
Mhm.
I'll come back, when I'm ready to face this, or even maybe I'll call her, or maybe I will write her a letter to let her know. And I've done that myself. I've not necessarily letter, I've sent like text messages like, it hurts my feelings when every time I see you, you're saying this to me or you saying that to me, and I don't know how well it was received, but it helped me, and everyone has to do stuff to help themselves, even if, the person that you're addressing it to, if they don't quite understand,
Yeah.
maybe they'll get to a place where they can understand, maybe not, but your focus is on your wellness and you being that whole person. And hopefully, you all can maybe sit down and talk about it later.
Yeah, hopefully, because sometimes you have to accept that they will not appreciate your boundary, especially if it's a boundary. Maybe it's not something where they're prying into your life, but maybe they have been manipulating you, and now you're setting up to say, "What are you doing that? I'm not loaning you this money anymore. You don't have to pay me the rest of
Yeah.
it back that I've given you over the 29 years we've been in each other's lives, right? But you can't handle more." So
Hmm.
essentially, I've given you a gift. These are more debts you don't have to pay back. And then people react, badly to that. I shared something on Facebook that said, if you live with somebody, get up, clean the house, cook a meal, something to
I
that
think I
effect.
saw that.
And I chuckled because I was like, let me establish my boundary here in Facebook land. You can't ever, 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 ever live with me if you're not
Mhm.
my husband or my parents. That's a hard no. Sometimes you can pre-establish because I'm the kind of person, Dorian, who can see something happen to somebody else, and I don't have to experience the lesson. I'm
Mhm.
watching. I
Yeah, you
see
got to take
video.
notes from them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and even though sometimes people may not understand it, we're called many things, and I'm saying we're because I include myself in some of that too, because
Yeah.
some people just do not understand, why you do set certain boundaries. And we're angry, you know, we're stuck up, we're names, that we sometimes take in and we ingest, and that's a part of narrative therapy too, to try to, you know, stop thinking like that because it's being imposed on you. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and we want to start to create our own narrative, or re-author ourselves, because there's so much negative talk that goes into black women making decisions for themselves, or um, you know just our attitudes in general.
Yeah.
Like I said, we can be the angry black woman to people, or or whatever, because people don't really understand, that those of us who are okay with saying, this affects me, you know,
Mhm.
I need my space,
Yeah.
you know, is looked at in a certain way. So, you know.
Particularly in corporate world, I struggle with. So I have what people term the resting bitch face. And so if I'm expressionless, it looks like I almost got into a fight in high school because this girl swear up and down. She swore up and down I was ice grilling her. I wasn't even
Mm,
looking at her. But if you don't know me, if you already come with a chip on your shoulder, people make assumptions about you. And then if you then set a boundary. So if I already start off with the resting bitch face, right? And then someone says something, um, and I establish a boundary, sometimes their triggers come into play because they're offended and it had nothing to do with me. You really mad at your dog from this morning, but okay, I'm the person nearby because I happen to stand up for myself. That gets tricky in a work setting, does it not?
absolutely. And I've definitely had my share of that.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And I can probably go on and on talking about those things, but it's just so much. And I think that's probably why, I definitely wanted to get into social work. As you know, this was definitely not my goal starting out, because we met when I was in the world of fashion design, which I
Yeah.
still love, I still love, and I can be a therapist and I can create a line of clothes now.
Yeah.
But but just uh it's just kind of, it's a tricky thing, because as Black people, as African Americans, we just have so much working to our disadvantage in some areas, as far as that's concerned, because there's internalized racism that we don't necessarily realize, that we have for each other, you know and we're threatened by each other sometimes, when we definitely should, be coming together and working together as Black women, as sisters, as queens. Um, but we don't always look at it like that. We look at it as a competition.
Sure.
What does she have? I want what she has. Who is she married to? I want the kind of relationship she has. When the grass is definitely not always greener on the other side, and even if it is, be focused on your own, plot of land, build your land,
Hmm.
plant your seed so it can grow, so that
And
we
till that soil, because what you're looking at may very well be astroturf. We'll talk about that post
absolutely,
show.
or some spray on grass.
Right, like they do in Cali, right?
Yes.
Um, what are some ways that people should not try to establish healthy boundaries? So they want to set a boundary, but they go about it all wrong. I would imagine throwing a chair across the room is a poor decision. But what what are some other ways? Sometimes people make you want to throw chairs, but that is inappropriate, right?
Yes.
Okay, I was just double checking.
Yes, that is.
But I'm just curious at what ways have you seen it go left where that wasn't the best approach?
Well, you know what? Like we were talking about before, it's not going to always go well, even if it is, with good intention,
Okay,
because some people are just not going to accept the fact that, you know, for one, you telling them to do something, and some people don't like to be told to do anything.
Lord.
Two, you know, who are you, to tell me to give you space? I'm coming at you in a positive space. I love you. I'm your family member, but you're hurting me. Do you understand that? Do you get that? Um, so I think what I would say is, the wrong way is to keep pushing the issue,
Mhm.
or we definitely want to watch our tone, watch how we speak to people, because we want to be respectful in everything that we do. Yes, of course, I know you were joking, but throwing chairs is not gonna get you there. Fighting it out in the parking lot, you know
Right.
that's not the best solution. um but I would say, just be respectful, watch your tone. And if that doesn't work, sometimes you just have to let things, be still.
Mhm.
It's a lot of power in silence.
Yeah.
So
Even
if
if
you
it's
can,
uncomfortable.
even if it's uncomfortable, just give people their space, and then you'll definitely have your boundaries then, because, they won't be, trying to, come back and do the same things that they were doing, or say the same things that they were saying,
Mhm.
because now they know this is definitely a boundary. And if they value your friendship, if they value your relationship with them, they'll give you that space, and they'll take the space to self reflect and come back. And, hopefully that'll settle it. But like, we said, there's not always, that's not a definite, because
Sure.
sometimes people just don't want to do you know, what you're asking them to do.
And sometimes they come at you in an effort to distract themselves from whatever their mess is, if that makes sense.
Yes, that
Um,
makes sense.
yeah, they're trying to get it. It's kind of like how the guy in the classroom or the girl in the classroom is hilarious and starts cracking on everybody else, so that you don't notice that he or she is inadequate, at least in their perception,
Hmm.
um, in some other area. They
Hmm.
just want to get it
Yeah.
off of them.
Yeah. And then we call that, in social work, we call that counter transference or transference.
Mm.
Like, sometimes they're counter transferring things onto you, or they're transferring, how someone's treated them onto you, or, you know, how they want to be treated, you know. So it all depends on, you know, what they've experienced or what they're looking for, or, you know, how they look at things. You know, it may be a counter transference or a transference thing.
Yeah, that makes sense. As we get
Mhm.
ready to wrap the show, what is the biggest takeaway that you want the audience to remember about establishing and keeping those boundaries? So we establish boundaries, and then people come up and, you know, erase the proverbial line in the sand, and sometimes we don't have the strength to draw it back.
Mhm.
What is the takeaway as we wrap?
Well, the takeaway is I think to, you know, just hold your ground, you know, be strong about it, because it's ultimately your well-being, you know, that's going to be affected by the fact that someone else can't value your space, or, you know, value the boundaries that you've set up for them. So I would say, you know, keep being respectful, you know, keep, you know, trying to find ways to ask for boundaries, you know, take that space, you know, take that time where you're not, you know, around them, or even talking to them sometimes, or even, you know, communicating on social media, you know, if that's going to help. But my biggest takeaway is to take care of yourself, take care of you, you know, so that we can take care of other people, because we're definitely, you know, people who want to have this everything, this family, this love, this, you know, we want to have good things in life. We want to have family, we want to have friends, but you have to be able to, you know, build yourself up and grow. Because if you're not growing, what are you doing?
Yeah, you're
You
stagnant.
know, you're stagnant. If
Hmm.
a plant doesn't grow, you know, something's wrong with the roots. You know, it may be on its way to dying, you know. So you have to be able to fill your cup up first, so that you can give, you know, back to others. And, you know, they may be in a space, you know, at some point where, you know, they may need you, you know, to be that person there for them, you know. So,
That's great. I think that's a great note to end on. We talk a lot about relationships. Obviously, Tasha Talks is about relationships of all kinds, and that self care piece is the foundation. You don't take care of you, you can't take care of anyone else. Thank you so much, Dorian, for being a part of the show. We hope to have you back. We'll talk about some other topics. This has been TLC Talk Radio's Tasha Talks. I'm your girl, Tasha. Don't forget to follow us on all of our social media pages: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and of course, YouTube. And catch us anytime you want, 24/7 entertainment on TLCTalkRadio.com. We'll catch you later.